Welcome back, YouTube. Today I'm going over my new crossbow, the Raven R10, and why it's still a good crossbow in 2021. So let's check it out. So remember the CP400 I had on my channel? And I said this was an amazing crossbow. Downsides on this crossbow was the trigger. That's the downside. This sucker right here is the worst thing about this bow. Other than that, I really never had a negative thing to say about this. Maybe a little front heavy, maybe. But all around, a really good crossbow. Scope was cheap, but if you didn't mess with the sauce, this thing was dialed in perfectly for what came with the bow, and what came with it was all right. Oh, and it's a rope pull. But they do have cranks for that. You gotta buy them separate. You remember but that was my brother's. I gave that to my brother. And out to 80 yards, I could hold a pretty good group with it. The trigger really gave me some trouble past, 80 yards, which I thought 80 yards for a $600 crossbow was amazing. I had the Barnett, and unfortunately, this is where I'm going to say, you get what you paid for. So with the Barnett, I shot it, and then all of a sudden, everything was flying perfect. And all of a sudden, arrows started kind of flying wonky, especially with broadheads. They were all over the place. And so I took it. It was out of time, got it restrung, which I don't know if I would now do again for a $250 crossbow. Just not worth it. By the time it got done, it was $150, but it was a good crossbow. It worked good for me. So then I took it out, thought it was in time, and it would not shoot anything right. I even had every broadhead it shot like that. It shot those terribly. It shot these terribly. I don't have one out. I can show you something new I've got playing with it. I have these new severs. I bought these all right, I'll buy a mechanical, because these I'm trying out. These might be my first mechanical I actually like. Maybe. It shot those awful. It shot everything but a field point terribly. And I still couldn't get it timed. I tried different bolts. It just wouldn't tune right. There's something with the bow off. And where I take my stuff to get worked on, they don't really deal with a lot of crossbows. They do have a lot of crossbows, but typically they only deal with high-end crossbows because it makes sense. People buy low-end crossbows like the Barnett XP380. They don't take them in. They just buy new ones, which makes sense. But that one shot really well, so I was trying to save it. I liked the trigger. I just couldn't. I said, this is a money pit. I'm going to stop throwing money into it. And for me, if I use something a lot, I will put money into it. Even if it's something I typically would say is not a good idea to put a lot of money into. That's why I went ahead and I saw on Amazon they had some good deals on the Raven R10. Now, a little background on the Raven R10. I'm not going to go through this. If you want to go through a Raven R10, go look up somebody else's video. They're all around. I'm not going to go through this video. It's 2021 when I'm shooting this. Actually, it's Labor Day right now when I'm shooting this. This bow's been out a long time. If you want more information about it, but it's out there. But the Raven R10 came out in like 2017-ish time frame. It shoots 400 feet per second. It was, up until this past year, their lowest crossbow on Raven makes, which means it's still better than 90% of all the crossbows on the market. And I would argue that it's going to be hard to beat. But when I knew I was going to get another one, I looked at like center point, because, this one, and I decided everything had some. A lot of crossbows have a lot of features in that mid-tier to low end to mid-tier range, but they just had things I didn't want to mess with. It's late. I got a new job. I'm working a lot more hours. I don't have time to mess and tune with stuff. So I just bought a Raven because Raven's system is we do the tuning, shoot our stuff. I laugh about my own jokes because you have to shoot Raven arrows through this. You have to shoot their nocks. I mean, the only thing you really get to choose is what broadhead you shoot and what scope. Everything else is proprietary. But it's a well-made proprietary, so take that for what it's worth. So I bought this bow as a buy once, cry once. I could have bought a Killer Instinct. I have them. I reviewed them. They're good bows for the money, but they're not this. And when I got it, I was like, I wonder actually how well this bow is going to work over the Barnett, the CP 400 center point. I was surprised. It was like jumping in. It was like driving around my Ford Fiesta right here, and then jumping in a Corvette, or I don't know, something that just a car that it handled so much better. It was like the others were like, yeah, it handles great, and then it different world. And I knew from the CP 400 that, because I've had to have this bow restrung, that my local bow shop could restring them and did a good job at it, and it didn't mess the tune up. They're really easy to tune back. I feel like they're easy to get back in tune. And so that was also another decision. And then Amazon had a deal on them where you got, first off, unlike some high-end crossbows, this one came with a good scope. It came with a speed ring scope. I could have got, again, high-end Killer Instincts, but I really like the helical technology. It's very easy to tune, and my shop tunes it, so that was kind of a thing for me. And and Amazon, and by the way, they go right now. If you want this bow, like you were looking at, go buy it. They have package deals where it comes with, because you get the scope, the crank, the quiver, like that's standard. But what you get extra now is there's some extra deals. Is these, the arrow puller, knock, turn off deal, the lube, and you get, now they have a deal where you can get, how many arrows did I get? 12, 15 arrows, and 3 of them are lighted. Pretty good. Pretty good deal for me. So that's what made me buy a Raven R10, but is it worth it? And my answer is yes. It still has all the features of the new Raven, and because the new Ravens aren't that much different. They are, but they're not. Typically, they're just shorter and faster. R26 being the same speed as this, and the R29 being X being the fastest at like 430, or 450. And you go to their website, but this being the lowest, and they're going to discontinue this. And I've seen people on YouTube still shooting the R9s, like they're not trading it in. So my view is like this is like the Matthews switchback of our day. Like I foresee people shooting these style crossbows until Raven's like, we're not gonna do anything to help you anymore. Go buy a new one. And so I bought it because the cheaper Barnett just out of tune. And if you want to be that person and just keep buying cheap crossbows, I'm not going to knock you. Maybe you don't shoot as much as me. For me, I shoot a lot. I enjoy shooting. I bought a high-end crossbow, higher-end crossbow. If you're going to be one of those people that just types in the comments like, dude, why would you ever pay that much money? Like, this is not your review. This is for people who are like on the fence about buying an R10 going, I don't know if it's worth it. If you shoot a lot, it's worth it. If you hunt a lot, it's worth it. And Raven just coming out with a 500 grain arrow. So they're even bumping it up. And a little side note is Raven's the only company that tests their speeds, then advertise with a 400 grain arrow. They don't sit there and boast about 440 speed with 375. They put 400 grains and they say that's the speed. And they're usually dead on. So a little bit rambly. That's what you tuned in for. I'm currently shooting a 125 grain tip and kind of choosing a few different broadheads I might want. Magnuses are in the running, of course. Maybe a grizzly stick. And even, this is going to be a change. Mechanical, Sever. Lust Archery Adventures did a test on this, and actually I was very impressed with how well this did. So I'm going to try to stick that around, see if I like it or not. Probably hate it. But anyways, Raven R10